Hey, there's two me's this time too.
Check one, check two. Is that better? Okay, great, great, great. I'm in coffee bar just because I need to get some coffee and stuff, but they have the worst Wi-Fi here. It's so bad. And sometimes I just have to jump to my phone. That's why I started on my phone thinking, should I just do it on my phone? But like I can't do what I want to do today on the phone. But hi, Gabrielle, who's in the car on her phone. Hi. Vilma, why don't you go ahead? Hold on, it is recording. Okay, go. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and say hello to everybody and what you're all about? You probably know people already, but
Yeah, I know. Like three, four people. I'm Velma. I've met a few of you guys at the mixers at BraveMaker. Met Tony a year ago, and a little bit about me. I am a makeup artist. I'm a licensed cosmetologist, but now I am producing my first documentary. So I'm super excited about that. Let's see, I'm a twin, and I don't know. That's pretty much it. And there goes my twin.
hey.
Hey.
And the documentary, tell us a little about the documentary. The documentary is about twins, and then also what you're hoping, like why you wanted to join the mastermind.
um, so the documentary is about twins, and just basically about just not the tragic part of being a twin. It's the highlight is everything about being a twin. I always get asked how it's like being a twin, what's the life growing up being a twin. I'm like, this is the only thing I know. And now that I'm in not only in the community here in the Bay Area, but been to Twinsburg, Ohio, I've literally noticed that twins have so much in common, even though we are different ages or different, ethnicity or background. And I want to bring highlight to that. And me, my twin, Alicia and Anita, another, twins that we know and some of you guys know, we are going to interview some twins that me and my twin sisters met, and they've been going 20 plus years to Twinsburg, Ohio. And they do so much, and they're just full of stories. And I feel like what better way to represent twins, stories by twins and produced by twins. And almost everything is by twins, but Alicia, Anita, my twin. And so I'm pretty excited about this project. So
Great.
everything's new to me. Okay. So this is still like a first language. So, bear
Yeah.
with me. The reason why I want to join, besides you guys all being great, and I appreciate, a lot of you guys been like, giving me advice and stuff like that. I really want to invest and grow in this. I don't see it like something like a little hobby. Like I'm passionate. Like I remember telling you, Tony, earlier this year, like I have an idea and now I see it. And now I want to bring it to life. And I feel like what better way to like be around people that are creative and have done something in this area. So yeah.
So that's so great. I'm so stoked that you're taking the next step with us and that collaboration, that will hopefully come with it, with the mentoring, the ideas, the support, who knows, just other people that might jump on the project and help bring it to life. So thank you, Vilma, for making that first step. Uh, for everybody else, today, what I wanted to do is do a collaborative kind of what we call hive mind around. I thought this would be a great one for you, Vilma, too, as you're joining in on the filmmaking journey yourself to become a filmmaker. I wanted to do a feedback session on green flags, beige flags, red flags on filmmaking and or filmmakers. Like what are some things that you and we all should be looking for when we are going into a collaborative relationship with someone? And what are some things that we should run from when we notice some things popping up? And I wanted to create a Google Doc for us all as we do some feedback, maybe even tell some stories about some things without, because this is being recorded, without naming names or anything, but just keeping them as specific without being keeping them as specific without naming and keep them generalized and or change. Sometimes I'll change gender or even just like make up a name and say, whatever, Jane Doe or whatever, just to keep it personal as I'm telling the story. But I've been thinking this about a lot as I'm preparing for the film festival, as we're doing feature filmmaking workshops and other things. I think having a collective doc and maybe even turning it into a blog eventually, where we're like, hey, these are some things that we've seen on set, in post and pre. People who are great listeners always make great collaborators. People who are willing to own their mistakes, like that kind of thing is what I would like to kind of create and collaborate today. And then also we could do some definite check-ins with each other. And since we're 3 days away from the film festival, we can talk about what some of your hopes and goals are, or any clarifications that you all need as we hit the half year mark in 2025 and we go toward the end. Where are we in our goals? Does that sound good for today's sesh? Okay, cool. Hi, Dashiell. Welcome. And Shauna, glad that you're here. So if you're just joining, I'm going to create a doc and I'll put it as an editable file. It's always a word that I stumble over for some reason. An editable file in the chat so that everybody could have, access to type in as we go. And we'll just keep it kind of general right now. It's like filmmaking flags. We can kind of create categories along the way. And my first, I guess I'll start out. I guess let's start in the positive. And people can unmute, people can use the chat. That's how we go. Vilma, we use a lot of the chat too for connecting. So always, when we get on this, especially when we have guest speakers, which next week, by the way, we do have a guest speaker planned. It's Bella from Good Faith Casting, Belgica. I wonder if we should push that off, or because most of you are going to be at the film festival. Should we not be having a mastermind next Monday? If we should have a mastermind next Monday, let me see a thumbs up. If we should not and we should cancel, let me see a thumbs down.
Honestly, Bella is so amazing that I would rather, if you already have her on the books, don't cancel because her conference is in about a month and I don't know if she'll be able to. And I really want you guys to meet her just from somebody
Mhm.
who has met and worked with her and talked to her many, many times.
Mhm.
I'm just persuading you guys, but if you really don't want to, don't do it. But
Yeah,
she's
she is. She is good. I wonder if I could ask her if she could push off a week. She might say no, and then I go, well, let's just we'll hold the spot, and I'll jump on regardless and record. But if she can, it might be a good idea, just because I think everybody will be partying that late that night, and it'll be hard to jump on the next. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that before we move?
And are you filming Dashiell? Are you and Dashiell filming Zach Monday morning?
Well, that's something I'm still working on with his mom. So, that's the hope. That's the hope. Yes. There's a lot of moving parts that are happening. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm paying him for another night of hotel so they can do that.
So they should. Yeah. So that needs to happen. Yeah. 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 Okay. Great. All right. Well, let me put this thing in the chat right here. Would anyone like to
And
start?
Dave was planning to stick around too and help even kind of give Dashiell tips on interview setup and
Great.
where
Okay.
to set up
Cool.
cameras. I mean, he's willing to help with that, so
Okay.
he's gonna
Awesome.
stay till like lunchtime on Monday
Are they
for that
staying at the Marriott?
at the hotel niche.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, everybody, in the chat will be filmmaking flags, it's called. Everybody is going to have editing access, so you can pull it up as we go, and feel free to type anything, and we'll address and talk about things as we go along. And chat there. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I'll just jump in and start. Something that we know is a good human trait in general is the ability to listen and take feedback. Whether it's my marriage or with my kids, that is a great green flag in a filmmaking collaboration. Somebody who can take feedback, who can hear when things are maybe not going in a direction that are agreeable, and can listen to different sides. I think that's something that I value, and I'm trying to practice myself. Am I someone who listens and gets feedback and doesn't shut people down? And maybe the other part of the green flag is, even when I feel passionate, or when I feel a decision I am making, even when it's maybe pushed up against, that I could say and acknowledge, hey, I see where you're coming from, or I understand that perspective. I really think this is the way I want to go. This is where we are going to go. For me, I'll get on board with that. Okay, great. There's also so many things when it comes into that, with tone of voice, body language, all those kind of things. But the opposite, obviously, the red flag is the power imbalance and the hierarchy and they're kind of putting the flag in the ground in regards to, well, I'm the director, well, I'm the producer, or well, I'm the whatever title we want to insert. That can tend to be a red flag. I know in filmmaking, sometimes the stress of set and the time and the pressure, those things sometimes have to be done because we can't sit around and sip tea and debate. But those are just some red green flags I would bring up. Comments, thoughts.
I think like underrated green flag is when uh they tell you that they're going to feed you. They tell you your call time and your wrap time because just feeding is such a basic thing. Even if you're on set for 2 hours, 4 hours, like if I'm on set on 4 hours, I'm sorry, I'm going to need food because my energy's going to go down. Um, but those things like really feed usually how the rest of the set is going to go. Because if they already care about making sure you leave on time and making sure you're eating well, it's very likely that the vibes on set are going to be ones that they actually care about each person versus like being more like it must happen, which I know filmmaking is so hard and like it must happen and there's just so many moving parts, but like some people just like the art of it is up here and the
Mm.
humanity is down here. It's like, and it's okay because we all have different um what is it called? Like work ethics. Like I have a really high work ethic, but I also care deeply about the people and not burning my bridges to best of my ability. You know, sometimes they just don't like me. It's okay.
I think,
But
sorry to interrupt. What did you say? Prioritizing art over what? Or you said something?
humanity.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which sounds a little bit dramatic, but just some people, like they're just so art oriented. You know what I mean?
Like we have to get the shot no matter what. And we will sacrifice people, their mental health, exhaustion, burnout. Yeah. We're going to talk about that on Thursday at the mental health workshop. That's a really good one. By the way, are people familiar with beige flags? Am I making this up? I feel like I've heard this term. It's sort of like somewhere in between. It's like just something to be aware of, be cautious of. What's
Yeah,
Yeah,
your...
kind of like
totally.
yellow.
It's like a dating thing.
Oh, okay. Like I
A
know I've
beige
heard
flag
beige.
is like
Yellow,
it's
yellow
not a
flag.
deal breaker, but it's one of those kind of things.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Like I know I've heard beige before. Okay, cool. Gwen, did you have something to add here?
Well, it's funny because everything that everyone says, it brings up more ideas, right? So I don't I think the thing about what you said, Tony, with being listening and being open, I think everyone has an opinion, and if you gave the same script to 20 different people and let them make a movie about it, it would come out 20
Yeah.
different ways, right? And so it's so challenging to remember that
Hmm.
there isn't like a right and a wrong. And I think a lot of times people they'll get really tight about it. And so I'm not sure how to put that, and I'm not even sure where to put that, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you have your idea, but and if someone else has a different idea, it's not the one is right and one is wrong.
I would say too, and in just the language that we use as we talk, I'm thinking about this as I prepare for panels. I want to make sure I'm saying in my experience or in my opinion or as I understand it, this is how I do it, but this is not always the right way or will work for you. And I really appreciate when people talk like that because that feels so it's not like drawing a line in the sand. Like I am the end all be all, and I am the professional, and I am the one who knows all these things. It's like, no, this is how I see it. So when someone uses certain phrases, that is like a green flag for me. So I don't know if this works for you, Lynn, but just even like saying something like, um, "Hey, thanks for sharing your ideas and your thoughts. We're all trying to do our best. In my opinion, I think this might be the best way. What do you think? I mean, it just is about like, are we having conversations? Are we acknowledging, especially when we get into challenging spaces? In fact, let me actually show you a quick, like 30-second clip and see what you all think about this. There's a filmmaker who I met years ago, I think at CineQuest, who then got in to Sundance this past year. And She did a what do you call it? Oh, and she was at Napa Valley, so Kelly, you'll know her. Erin Brown Thomas. She did a proof of concept, a 30-minute like short thing that got into Sundance, and now she's been making all these videos. But she just posted this video the other day, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Let's see if we can
aligned. And once you're
it.
united there, you're not just allowing people to.
Oops, sorry. It's called Filmmaking is Messy.
Filmmaking is messy. And here's the secret that nobody tells you. Conflict is not just inevitable, it's essential to making a great movie. If you want your project to run smoothly, here are 3 things your whole crew has to agree on. 1, what movie are we making? The theme, the tone, the vision, shared references keep everyone aligned. And once you're united there, you're not just allowing people to speak up, you are hiring them because they will. You want that pushback. You want that expertise. Number 2 is clear expectations about how the project and the day are going to go. Everyone should know what's happening, when, and how. And 3 is mutual respect. You're working with passionate, opinionated people, and even when you disagree with them, respect has to stay front and center. Disagreements are not just normal, they are critical to getting the best ideas on the table. So, while you are learning how to direct or write or produce, learn how to regulate your emotions. Learn to assume the best in people, because the way you handle conflict is what earns trust. It's what bonds crews, and it's what builds the culture on set. And as you do that work, you're going to attract collaborators who will show up in the same way. That's how you build sets where the work is better because of that friction, not in spite of it. Filmmaking.
So it's kind of based on what you were saying, Gwen. I thought that was an interesting reminder too. We should expect it. It's going to come, but how we handle it and how we talk about it, I think is crucial. So maybe a green flag would be something around that, like just stating that the obvious that this is all subjective. This is we're seeing things different. You said 10 different filmmakers making one script 10 different ways is a reality. But the red flag of it is my way or the highway kind of thing, which I think in filmmaking we definitely can see a lot of.
Well, and it said blatantly on set, right? Like, you're the director, you're in charge, it's your vision. And I actually found that kind of uncomfortable because I feel like I really like to collaborate and I really like to get people's feedback, and especially if I'm feeling uncertain about something. And it's so weird to be told like, no, you're the dictator. And it's a weird feeling. But I understand that there needs to be a hierarchy and there needs to be somebody who makes the decision so that the arguments don't just go on forever and ever. But still, it's an interesting thing that traditionally in filmmaking, it's very rigid.
Yeah. And this is where Dasher, you're next, but this is where we get to change the culture, right? We get to say, this is how we're going to do it. And a lot of people who experience sets with that kind of culture go away changed, and then the ripple effect is then they're leading their sets in different ways too. Go ahead, Dashiell. I'm adding your red flag here.
Yeah, there's like nowadays there's like problems with like a lot of problems with AI and I have a lot of issues with that, mainly because it gets rid of the whole process of filmmaking and it takes away from the art. Because for me, making movies is all about the art. Like you got to enjoy every part of the process. And it's not just about money and business. And also, AI, he doesn't always have accurate information about people with disabilities because of representation and things like that. And when I make movies, I want to make movies that actually have that. So people are aware of what's going on, but and also enjoying great movies and learning a lot about all kinds of different topics and things that people are actually concerned about.
So, Dashiell, would you say a green flag for you is just a learning environment, like being able to have a space where people are learning and growing together? And it sounds like you also maybe a red flag about AI. Would you say a red flag is a collaborator who maybe wants to utilize AI in place of a person and creativity that is stifled or substituted with AI? Okay, I'll put that down.
Yeah, I also put something in the chat too
Okay,
as
I'll
well.
look. I'll look. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm checking the chat. I think I said needs to be the right kind of conflict. You're talking about the Aaron. Yep. Yep. I think there are people I've experienced with too who will, in the name of artistic conflict, I mean, this is hard. This is my subjective opinion, right? Who will push a conflict on that doesn't need to be, and maybe also stuck time on set or in the creative process in order to say this is the creative process and we need this. I'm like, but this is crossing lines for me, in my opinion, that feel toxic and feel unnecessary and are telling me that this is not a good collaborative partner for me to have. That's where it's like, ooh, I don't know about like if you're saying that, but I have definitely experienced those things in the past too.
I'd love to jump off of what Gwen just said in the chat is passionate about their part of the process, willing to work with others, but advocate for their vision. I've also seen that extended out into being clear on what your job is when you're in there. I've been like an extra, for example, for like a higher production. And I tried helping one of the PAs with something, and someone came over and got upset with the PA and said, if you can't do your job, you can't have the actors help you. You need to find another PA to help you as well. That's not their job. His job isn't to be helping you. So, understanding what it is that your job is there, and then understanding what everyone else's job is, and trusting them that they can do it or figure out how to do it within their scope, especially as an actor as well. I've definitely been on set before where, or I go into like a table read, and I work with like a very novice director at this moment, and he was trying to give me every single inflection he wanted for every single line.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and after I did it, I listened to him, and afterward I asked him, I was like, "Can I show you what I prepared?" And he was like, "Okay, sure, but I won't like it." And I showed him, and he was like, "Okay, actually, fuck what I said. That's amazing. Do that." So it was funny, but as an actor, I want to be able to be trusted that I you chose me for a reason, or you chose that PA for a reason, or this producer for a reason. So trusting the person to complete the job or to fulfill their job within your scope of vision.
Can you bullet point that idea you were saying about the um, basically clearly communicating, clearly like we don't necessarily do this in filmmaking, but there is an unwritten, but could be written job description, right? So what does a PA do? You know, what is the responsibility for you when you're on set? And what are some don'ts on set? What shouldn't you be doing?
Hmm.
You know, there are union rules too. Like you cannot touch a C stand if you're not in the union on certain sets. And that can get you in trouble. I remember feeling really shamed in a way when someone, I remember I was on one set and someone's like, "Oh, I need a water," and I was like, I was super close, and I went to grab the water, and someone like didn't slap my hand, but basically said, "Don't do that, don't touch that. You can't do that." I was like, "Oh, I had no idea that I couldn't even
Yeah.
just pass a water over," right? So yeah, the learning, going back to what you said too, Joshua, the learning curves on sets for people who are new, it's a lot. You know, the terms, the back to ones, the hot set, all that kind of stuff. We try to do that with BraveMaker. We send a double-sided sheet to help people acclimate, but it can be a lot for a newbie to kind of come on. And then when you're on a certain tier, you know, people aren't taking time to do that. You know, that PA, that would you say that PA who asked you to help? Can you talk a little bit about what you saw in that? Were they kind of like confused? Was it like, oh shoot, they should have known better? How did that go? How could that have been
I
better?
offered the help. So
You offered to help.
I was so used to being on different sets
Yeah.
that we all collaborated together. We all worked together to make it. You know, we were all the PAs and we were all the actors, or and so it's uh it was a corporate, it was like a commercial, and the PA was struggling, was trying to lift something that was really heavy, and I am used to doing that, so I offered the help, and I kind of just grabbed it, similar to what you were saying with the water. I just grabbed it and offered that help, and his boss walked over and scolded him for doing it, and was super nice with me, was like, hey, you can't do that. That's not okay. If and I said, look, I was just trying to help out. He said, no, if he can't do his job, then he shouldn't be here. And if he needs help, he needs to come talk to me or find someone else that can help. But if you're the actor, you need to be the actor, which is okay. Go. Feel free to sit down, but this isn't your job here.
That would be so hard when you're a helpful person. You're like, why can't you hand the water? I mean, that just, ugh. Unions.
Yeah, it's odd. And if we're on a set that's creating a culture of kindness and collaboration, it could be communicated in a way. It's like, oh, thank you so much for being helpful, Jacob. We just have this is protocol and this is the way we have to do it. But thank you so much. And we'd love to have you back on our set as a PA someday or something. And that takes what, 20 seconds? But that takes a lot of maturity and a lot of self-discipline in the heat of a moment. I mean, this morning even I was experiencing a thing in my own personal life where the coffee maker this morning leaked all over our internet. We had no internet service. I'm calling AT&T. I was trying to get a workout in. My daughter had to go to camp. We have a plumber coming to fix something else at our house. And I'm like, I got to get to work and I have all these other things. And I was just telling myself, this is such good practice. Like I'm like, hey, honey, I'm being really impatient right now. I'm just going to let you know. I will text you when I figure out because we needed a password to get to the AT&T fiber. I didn't have it. Blah, blah, blah. It's just taking 20 seconds to just go, I could flip out, I could be rude, I could be short, I could slam a door, or I could funnel that energy in a different way. And that's like true of life, true of stuff, right? Ooh, it's hard. So Kelly, you have a hand. Olga, you have a hand.
Yes, this is more about a bullet point also on the list, but the importance of not sugarcoating the facts, how they are. It does not mean being rude, does not mean being impatient. It's about being true and honest because there are a lot of situations on set that could be stressful, that could be not going as expected or something that just comes up of all the unforeseeable places. And to me, at least, it helps a lot to really be real about it. Like, okay, we're not going to say that we're going to wrap by 10 if we know it's not going to happen. Like I've seen sets where there are a lot of things in motion and a lot of people are struggling to get things done. And because somebody promised, or because on the call sheet, the call time was a certain point, people expect that to happen, even they know it's not real. And someone like from a camera team or even the director say, yeah, we're on track, we'll be there. But if it's not the case, it's always important to communicate that it's not going to happen, like something came up, and explain why. There's no reason to shy away from the reasons why this happened, or the actual purpose of the delay or something else, so that people know that we're all being honest. We're not trying to hide things or rush things and do them worse than they should be done or could be done. So I think just being really honest about everything, the progress and any setbacks, and also looking for backup solutions. Like last Monday, we had a situation where we knew that the shoot was not going to be done by a certain point where some people had to leave. So for actors, it was all communicated. Like we only went back like 20 minutes for our one scene, but for sound department, they had to leave because they had a job next day. And I personally would never push someone to stay if they have to go because again, safety and then just humanness of it, like there's no need to do that. So we said, okay, what can we do in this situation? You have to go. We do need to record sound. We do need this for next scenes. It's not going to be MOS, like we have to have the equipment. So the solution was to actually leave the equipment behind. We did make it work. We had people to handle the equipment, but we didn't have the actual sound recordist, sound mixer on set. But that worked really well because we had the equipment with their full consent. We returned it like 2 days later. So such things happen. We all know that they could happen, but being real about it and saying like, oh, can you stay? Can you do something? Like, no, people's safety and health and well-being comes first. But the equipment is something that can be solved, or there could be a different way to solve it. But just being open about it, I think it's something that helps people and not burns those relationships.
Let's talk about that for a second on that honesty and communication. And you're talking about not sugarcoating. I think this comes into I'll speak for myself, as creatives, sometimes we definitely have to live in that delusional, optimistic, believing all things are possible. And that's really good. But that can also become a red flag when we are talking all these things that aren't possible. You can't possibly do 25 shots setups in this one out in this whatever this schedule that you have created. And being realistic is so important because that builds trust. Remember when Sarah Elizabeth Timmons, that was one of the biggest takeaways is we're building trust with our financiers, we're building trust with our funders, we're building trust with our audience, we're building trust with our cast and crew. And when we start to overpromise and underdeliver, that erodes trust. And sometimes with a little kind of like a friend of mine would say, like you're being killed by 1,000 paper cuts or something like that. Like one little ouch, okay, but then you have 10 or 20 of those. That happens on one set experience, let alone over a year or two of collaborating with someone. It can really deteriorate a relationship. And I feel like, man, I am realizing in my own self, I can tend to live in the clouds as a visionary, but that visionary life can also really cause negative impacts on people. If you're talking about something that's going to happen and it doesn't, people, again, things fall apart wherever. It could just be really detrimental in the ways people want to work with you or not. So, for instance, recently was working on a project where I wanted an actor to be a part of something. They were going through some tough times, as we do. We were trying to negotiate their schedule and lots of time trying to figure out how we can make it work. They wanted to be a part. We wanted them to be a part. And then it's just like the person dropped out quite last minute. And I felt so betrayed because I spent so much time, not like literal money, but time is money. And I told myself, I can't work with that person again. That person is talented. That person is someone I want to be on set, but they're not organized enough. They're over promising and under delivering. And now that has impacted me. And now I have to go into a state of emergency to try to pick up on the slack on their behalf. It was just so frustrating. And I think I see that on all levels too, whether it's like promising to deliver a project when fully editing, or some of you who are dealing with like, okay, sound design and composing. I love Apple's protocols when you go in there to get something fixed, like a broken screen or whatever. They will over schedule. They'll give you like it'll be done in 7 days, and then when it's done in 3 or 4 days, you're so stoked, like wow, I got it early. But I know my human condition, especially in my relationships with my kids and my wife. Oh yeah, I can pick you up at 9, or I'll be home at 9:15. And I say those things because that's my true heart. But just showing up 5 or 10 minutes after that erodes trust. And my kids will often say, "Dad, you traumatized me in the second grade when you came 5 minutes late to pick you up." I'm like, yeah, that's very, very true. And I think the same is on set. When we say, "Oh, we're going to wrap at 10," and all of a sudden people are super excited, and then it's 11:30 when they finally wrap. That was a long thought, but you all know where I'm coming from. If anybody wants to comment on that, please let me know. And then Kelly, you got a hand up.
I just want to say that like with your experience of somebody dropping out, you mentioned that they're going through something in their own life. And I know that sometimes it's because they're going through something in their own life. So mentally, they're like, I'm not going to cancel, I'm not going to cancel. And then at the end of it, they're like, I have to. So I would say in those situations, just like over analyzing it a little bit and giving them a second chance, but like, sorry, baby girl, if you F me up 2 times, like I'm gonna take a break from you for a few years before I
Yeah,
give you a third chance. Just
yeah,
because we're all human, and I know that like when I lost my best friend a couple of years ago, I took a break from acting, but I would have probably ended up being that person that was like, whoa, my mental health is so terrible. Why did I even think I could do this, you know?
yeah, yeah, totally. Go ahead, Kelly.
Now I start thinking of like a bunch of different things while we're other things are popping up. I think one of my frustrations is I like to be a collaborator and to be, part of so much. I think it's frustrating when you're not allowed to do your job, like you're hired to do something on set. I think it's more as a script supervisor than a producer this happens where you're like, but I'm supposed to tell you these things. That's why I'm on set, and that's hard, but that happens. But if you're hired to do something, you want to do it and you want to collaborate. So that's one of the frustrations, but it's hard to know until you get on set. So I don't know what the flag would be with that, until you're collaborating. But I definitely, green flags are anybody that are good collaborators, and I think those are the most fun projects to work on for me. Um, with I was going to jump a little to, instead of on set, but be the producing side. One of the red flags I think sometimes you don't see right away, but um that I'm realizing as a producer is people, like, you will have an actor, a writer, somebody wanting you to come onto a project, and they get, you want to talk to them and encourage them about the project, but they want you to come on, and they want you to come on and be part of it, but for free. And, and then you're go into producer mode and start producing this project, and you're like, okay, well, it's not my project, but I've been asked to produce it or come on and help them, but yet no, you're still the one not getting paid at all for it. And it's so you don't have any ownership in it really. And it's hard to find, like, where to make that switch and start either charging or getting contracts in place early so that if there is a back end ever, you get a part of it. Or, it's not just about money either. It's about formalizing your attachment, because they could go off and do the project with somebody else and then you're out of it. So I think I had that situation once. It was a actress who's on a big show, and she had a project, and I don't love the subject matter, the storylines of either one of these scripts that she wanted, but yet I was helping give her notes on the story, and being encouraging to her and having regular meetings with her to get the story together, bringing in other contacts of mine to help her. And she wants a budget now, and it's like, because I'm getting other jobs, like, it's not like I'm just sitting around with no free time to do it. And so I said, I'm going to have to charge you to move it up in the priority list. And she's like, oh, well, I just thought you were going to be part of it. And it's like, okay, you can't do that so much. So I guess I don't know how to define that red flag, but like somebody who just, I guess there's two things. Somebody who wants you to come on and not compensate you for doing their project. But then the other circumstances that has come up lately are even other producers that want you to come onto the project and basically do it for them. Like, they don't really know what needs to happen to produce this, or their background comes from another area of production, but they have this idea and the script and this film, and they want it to happen, and they all of a sudden want you to raise all the money, and it's like, wait, that's not what I signed up for. Like, I came on and said I'm not the raising money part, but yet basically they other people that want you to produce their projects for them. But I don't know how to, I'm babbling because I don't know how to succinctly say it.
I wonder, Kelly, would you say too, going back to what you were first commenting, I wonder if there's a green flag in someone who says, hey, before we even enter this, let's just chat. How do you like to work? What are some green flags for you? What are some red flags? Because I have found we don't do that enough. And then we get in the thick of things and we're starting to go, okay. But if we had a conversation before 20, 30 minutes, that could help, right?
Yep. I started to do that with script supervising now. I started to have a meeting with the director and say, like, what do you like to do? How much feedback do you want? That kind of, yeah, I think that's super important. And I never used to do that. And you get on set and it just starts happening. And then, yeah. Yeah. So that's a good lesson for sure. Talk about it.
Yeah, I would put that onto the green flag list. Like, just let's talk. How do you like to work? What are some do's and don'ts for you? And I think especially for producers and directors and actors, this is really important. Jacob, you mentioned this, but There are some actors who want a lot of connection on set. There are some actors who just don't. They're like, hey, let me do 2 or 3 takes before you give me some feedback. And I think that's just a general thing. I would say my style is let them work it out first. But there are some actors who are do not ever give them a line reading, and some are like, I don't care, give me a line reading. You know what I mean? So I think asking those things ahead of time to an actor is so cool because I think they will also feel validated. And as a director or producer, we should be taking notes to make sure when we're on set, we're aware of that kind of stuff. But Kelly, going back to you as a producer or a script supervisor, kind of getting that obviously in writing ahead of time because at this level, in again opinion, Kelly, we've talked about this before. There's so many different producers and so many different types of producers, and at the level I'm at, usually I'm looking for producers who want to get their hands dirty, who want to do it all, and there are some producers who are like, I wanted to stay in this lane, and making sure you know what kind of relationship you're getting in with that producer, because there are people who want you to produce and do it all. They want you to line produce, they want you to creative produce, they want you to fundraise and executive produce. And then some people are like, no, I didn't sign up for that. That's not what I want to do. But on these indie projects, it's so challenging. So I guess it just always comes back to communication and contracts and getting things in writing. And I think we're getting better at that as a community. I mean, community as in BraveMaker, but this is an indie community. As things start to kind of crumble a little bit, when you don't, people learn, oh, I need to make sure that I have all of this stuff in writing. Expenses as well too. Clarify, like I'm buying batteries. I'm getting reimbursed for these, right? You're sending me on a thing. I'm going to get reimbursed for these coffees, right? Sometimes I've heard people who haven't. They're PAs and they're buying stuff and they're not getting reimbursed.
Yeah, and it's so hard when you are like we said with the other thing, when you're a helpful person, you want to help somebody pick something up, you want to help. So when you're a helpful person, it's very hard to all of a sudden go, oh, we need to get this in writing in a contract. It just kind of happens and it snowballs. You're like helping them with something, and then it kind of snowballs and you don't realize till you're in it, like, oh wait, this is a job. I'm like doing a lot of work,
I think it'll take some work, but just putting it on your like reminder list, like before you even start talking to anybody, like a sticky note or something. Okay, make sure if anything starts happening, ask them, let's put this in writing. What are the expectations? Because like you said, it snowballs so fast. And as an actor, I've started to create these little contracts where at least I want to have it on paper of certain expectations because I've just been burnt too many times, even with people that have worked with people that I know, just because somebody has worked with somebody else and the project is up there doesn't mean that it went well. It doesn't mean that that was a good collaboration, a good experience or whatever. So I feel like you seeing other friends work with that filmmaker is a beige flag. And
Mhm.
also, if somebody has had a bad experience with somebody, that's also a yellow flag, beige flag of like, take it into consideration, but also, see if maybe you would work well with them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always
Sorry, I
appreciated
like
when you
interjected a yellow flag to what you were saying too.
I've always
This
appreciated when
reminds,
you said that. Go ahead, Gwen.
oh, I
And
was
then
just gonna say,
and then Vilma.
Tony, this reminds me of how you were talking about, people who are just takers, right? Like they're people who they just want to take from other people. And that's so hard to know at the beginning of a relationship, right? But Kelly, it sounds like you've encountered some, people who just want to take from you rather than it feeling like an actual mutual collaboration.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know how much it's that or how much it's partially they don't know what it takes to produce, and so like and nothing against actors or anything, but it like in my experience it was somebody from the acting world who has a script that she helped write but not a writer either, and then she's like, oh, I want to make this, but yet she doesn't realize everything that comes around that, and you're like, okay, what part of producing do you want to do for your producer? That's what I started to do. And I sent a list out of like everything that has to happen. And I started putting, like, she said some stuff she wanted to do, and I was like, okay, that's like nothing, it's everything else was falling in my column, and I'm like, okay, you're not producing. You brought a story and you're getting some actor attachments that you like, but that's all you want to do. And yet you're gonna take the bulk of the producer fee even ultimately when I'm like, anyway, I don't think they realize they're takers is all I'm saying. I mean, good-hearted people don't, I think they just don't know what they don't know. And I think I've got to get better, like Bellica said up front, at kind of outlining, okay, these are the things I can do for you. These are the things that I can't do for you, and getting it in writing. But it's hard when it's friendships and stuff to know when to put things like that in writing. I guess that's the hard part too.
And maybe that's a yellow or a red flag, depending on who you are. Of if somebody's a first-time filmmaker or like a third-time filmmaker, maybe they're still a little bit too green, like too new in the industry, where you're going to end up doing so much because you can do everything so much more efficiently and so much better. So maybe considering those red flags of like, I'm not going to work with you right now because it's going to end up
Yeah.
making 300 hours more of work for me.
Yeah. But
Velma,
it's
go ahead.
also hard, sorry, once you already commit too, and movies take years, so it's like you already are in it, so it's very hard to go backwards, but good lessons learned, so sorry.
I'm just going to piggyback on the conversation because I'm so happy you guys are having this conversation because I am new to this. And the only collaboration for me is for like makeup from like, photo shoots or like that kind of genre. But it might be a dumb question or new question or whatever it is. But what is considered collaboration in this industry? That's my question. And then from there, I have another question. Like, I don't know. Because like I could see what you're saying, Kelly. I've been on that side, but as a makeup artist, as a creator, I've been a creative director for like photo shoots and stuff like that. But now that I'm in this side, I don't want to be that person that you're dealing with, Kelly. Like I want to be the person, I want to be able to ask, when should I collaborate, when I shouldn't collaborate. And, I just don't want to deal with I've dealt with in the past in my makeup industry, because I know how it feels being on that other side, like that side you've been on, Kelly.
Well, I think that's a good point though, and you have experience, and you're not going to be the person that did stuff to you the way you didn't like it because you can learn from that. So not forgetting your past and your past experience, and how would you like to be treated, have been treated in those situations? Like if you had some ideas on how the makeup should be and
more than that.
Yeah,
The whole
totally.
creative part,
there's
like
so much more that you did, I'm sure. But if you like, how would you want a director or a script supervisor or anybody to collaborate with you on those situations, and then be that person? Like be the person, they always say, like, be the mom you would want to be your mom to have been, or something. Be the dad that you would have wanted to be, like kind of, that's one suggestion I have, is be that person, having time to communicate and have discussions rather than just quick, like, and sometimes it has to be like quick, I know. The other thing I will just say to you, as you're getting into this documentary, catch Dave Thies at the festival. He's 6'5", you won't miss him, but he will help you learn to set up how to do interviews and stuff, because he's done a ton of directing of interview setups and everything, if you want help with documenting.
No, definitely.
And that's a collaboration, like connecting.
Okay, so that's a collaboration. Okay. Yeah. And then like, do you guys like, I guess one would be a red flag of like when I shouldn't collaborate with someone? And I feel like you guys, Tony, you were about to talk about that, so I'll kind of will wait on the question until it comes back.
Like kind of like on this document, like we're talking about, I would say a collaboration, this is in my opinion, is a partnership, a creative partnership where people are linking hands together and making a film. It's one of the most collaborative vehicles ever, because there's business, there's art, there's visuals, there's script, there's everything on a film. Unlike any other art form, film is one of the most collaborative things that you could do to creatively make, right? So as you're making a documentary, you need subjects, you need vision, directing, producing, you need editing, you need cinematography, you need music, you need locations. All of those things are considered collaborations. Now, there are different levels of them, right? Your collaboration with a composer is going to be a little bit different than your collaboration with a DP or a subject. But all of those are levels of partnership and creativity. You're entering into a relationship. People say, as Kelly was saying, movies taking years. It's like dating and marriage. So as you're figuring out who to say yes to, who to commit to into this collaboration, you're dating some people. You should be interviewing different cinematographers, getting recommendations. Um, when I was just doing this thing in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, I had to hire a sound recorder for one day. And we did the week or two before, I was doing the feature film in San Francisco, and our sound recorder was probably like a B or a B plus, I would say, not an A or A plus, mostly because of chemistry on set. Didn't seem very nice at times, very, very capable and really, really good and talented. But there were times when it just didn't feel like warm and fuzzy. Not that you always have to be, but that's a priority I have. So when I was looking for this 1 day gig in San Francisco for a corporate gig, I I could have easily got this person, but like I want someone who is going to be fun. So I asked a couple of recommendations. I had a few other people I've worked with before, but I wanted to try somebody new, and I wanted to make sure I had a woman on set because it was a very male-dominated gig, and it worked out really good because I prioritized looking for a collaborator that not only was going to be great, but had good chemistry with people based on feedback that other collaborators gave her from the past. So, I mean, I would just say when you're figuring out who you're going to say yes to, you the conversation should be like hiring, you're looking at someone's resume. It's not a typical CSV resume, but it's like, or CV, sorry. But it's like, I want to know, where have you worked before in the past? As Belgica is saying, that doesn't always mean they're a great fit if they work with your friends, but getting referrals, look at their work, look at their social media presence too. That's a big thing in our culture. We can stalk somebody and see, are they a positive person? Are they a negative person? Where do they fit in the political spectrum potentially? Are they, anyway, you know what I'm saying? Those are all things to consider, just like the dating, just like friendship. It is really important. Those collaborations can, as much as you can, own that, be beneficial and healthy.
Really quick on what you just said, when you are doing research to see if you should work with somebody, social media, we don't want to talk shit about people. We don't want to be mean pe about people online. So you can do some research on social media, but it's so much better if you talk to somebody in person or a phone call, something that's not being recorded, so they can genuinely tell you like, hey, I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a good experience with this person, and maybe you'll have a better experience, but this is what happened with me, and trying to share it with them in a way that you're not just shit talking. Like save those like emotional shit talkings for your partner, for your best friend, Like my partner knows so much about everybody that I worked with, but most people don't, because I don't want to be mean or share like super negative things about negative experiences that I've had, because it just doesn't look good. Maybe what if you do work with them again and it's amazing? Who knows?
Yeah, I know.
Don't burn the
Yeah.
bridges.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm just, like I said, I'm new to all of this. I just want to make sure I don't like over collaborate or just collaborate with someone just to collaborate. If that makes sense, just to like make something happen. So
Yeah, I don't think you can over collab. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Tony. Over collaborate? Like, if it gets you stuck to where you're not moving forward, that could be over collaboration, is the only thing I could think of, where you just sit around and talk and talk and talk about it. And so you're not moving forward. Like eventually something has to be decided. Maybe that's an over collaboration, but other than that, healthy discussion is good, I think, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a red flag if you can't make decisions, right? Go ahead, Olga.
Yeah. Yeah, I would also say like start early. Like collaboration does not have to be done on set, as early as possible. Like we talked earlier, there's no such thing as a silly question or like all questions are important. They all have to be taken into consideration. If you have something to discuss as soon as possible, it's always the best idea. Directors are usually happy to share their vision. They want to share, they don't want to hold back. And it's better to resolve any confusions way before production begins or before the makeup day is scheduled is on the schedule. Because what happens otherwise is like there will be unanswered questions, and if people just start discussion, it might be very different from what initially kind of assumed. Because someone wants a rock chick makeup, it look very different for some people. You know, it could be lips, could be eyes, could be something else. So having the vision, but also talking about details is important to really have that unified front. But also, like for me, like I would always trust the person that I hired to do the job. So your makeup artist, I will share my vision, like this person would have this look, they have this vibe. But when it comes to, let's say, red lipstick, but this person wears red lipstick, it's up to makeup artists to decide if it's a cool tone, if it's a warm tone, if there's a gloss, if there's a matte finish like that. You guys know this better than anyone else. So as long as it's red, then everything else, like all the details, like technical aspects, goes to you as a professional. And I think that's super important to also delegate and have trust in your team so that you have the vision, but how to execute that vision, it's up to each department head, each professional. So yeah, the sooner the better those questions are answered is the benefit for everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say on that note, the communication process, this is so overstated, but communication is everything, 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 everything. Like with the film festival, with relationships, with family reunions, with travel plans, with making a film, and being a a good communicator as a filmmaker is crucial. That's where going back to that yellow beige flag around the art and humanity. Sometimes I know I have felt this too. Well, I want to have the creative vision and I want to have the freedom to do my art. Yes, well, if you do, then do as much communication and prepare as much as possible so that everybody is totally synced up. And if you need to have that creative woo-woo, then you can communicate it to people. Like, I'm going to take 15 minutes, or I'm going to, in the schedule, give myself time with the DP to find some shots that I might not have shot listed for. But I think one of the worst things is when people are not communicated to or things are happening on the fly. Doesn't mean things can't happen on the fly. Things should definitely happen on the fly, or spontaneous ideas come where we're like, oh my gosh, we need to go get a coffee cup because that is going to be hilarious if we insert it here. And someone's got to run to the convenience store. But it shouldn't feel as if it's like at the whim and we do things at the expense, again, of the health of our cast and our crew. I think there is so much communication that can happen on the fly, like just saying, hey, I just had this idea. I realize it's going to cost us some time. We'll reshift the schedule. Just want to let everybody know right now if we're on set. Great. We're going to make that happen. Okay, cool, cool. But even like obviously beforehand, I mean, you all are a part of the film festival in some way. There are so many communication things we're trying. We're trying to, for press, for the filmmakers, for our VIP, for transportation, for ASL. Like, there's so many things. And yet there will still be things when we show up that fell through the cracks that nobody knew. And that's really frustrating. But I go, at least we're putting the effort in and we're trying our hardest to make sure everything is communicated to. And I feel like I've been a part of sets where the communication is nil. And we all know what it feels like to get a call sheet, late. That's normal. But if there's communication up into that time, it's like, well, I'm more forgiving to get a late call sheet if I feel like the team has done as much as they could to make sure we're all in the know ahead of time. As we all started by saying, there will be food. What's your order? We're planning to do this. We're planning to do that. There's a vibe, and maybe there's an aura that you even can't just put onto a bullet point. It's like you can sometimes your gut can tell you, and maybe we can end with that. Like our gut and our instinct is pretty fairly right a lot of times. I definitely have been off and missed some flags that I thought I was clear on. Like super surprised that a person ended up being like a wild card and threw a wrench and everything. It usually happens at least once a year to me. I don't know about you all, but for the most part, like my gut sometimes will tell me, oh, I want to work with this person. And I definitely have been surprised when my gut has told me not to, that a person has ended up being someone who I was really glad to. Like, for instance, there was a person who I kept seeing years upon years at different things, but I started to write off because I was like, they're not going to commit. They're not going to get involved. They're not someone I want to work with. And then all of a sudden, they ended up showing up and really get involved. And I was like, okay, this is great. I like being wrong, but the gut thing is is something that, I don't know, if you get butterflies in a good way, that's great. If you get butterflies in a bad way, that's, serial killer vibes. You probably should lean into that a little bit. All right. Valiga says, I have trouble with my gut feeling versus anxiety. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Any final comments, especially as we go into the film festival? Be aware of that. Like Milan said last week, you can tell sometimes in a room who the givers and who the takers are. And you can just tell the people who are going to be fun over 4 days and people who are going to be a little bit of a challenge over the 4 days. I think. Go ahead, Dashley. You got a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, I put something in the chat I think you'll be really interested in. It's a story that it's a bit personal, a father-son story, since both me and my dad love soccer, and so check it out and save it,
Hey,
definitely.
okay, I'll check it out. I'm looking. There's a lot of things in the chat today. I love it. Okay, cool. Well, thank you all for your time. We'll have Bella on next week. We'll bring her on. And Bellika, since you know her so well, that would be great if you are here to even like do some talking about the Southwest Actors Conference that I'm going to in August 8th and 9th with Bellika, right? You're going too. Yeah.
And I think
Uh,
maybe Jacob and Gabriele might also be
are
going.
are you going, Jacob?
Okay. Yeah.
Yay! Awesome. We're gonna have so much fun.
Yeah,
So
we'll be
dope.
there. Oh, that's so
That's
cool.
so dope. So
And
dope.
I know this is late now, but I have a $50 discount code if anybody else wants to go. You hear of anybody? Belgica 50, I think. Anyways, if anybody else, if you hear of it.
Dope.
Yeah,
Good,
we
good.
got the early bird discount, which was incredible, and it was probably a rash decision, but we're so excited to go.
It's gonna
And
be
the
so much
hotel is
fun.
so cheap. It's so cheap,
And
which
it's
is great.
really beautiful and it comes with breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
My favorite.
I just had a last thought about red flag, green flag, beige flags. Like relationships and collaborations, like seriously go hand in hand. And when people start with a relationship with me, that's a green flag, as opposed to like the business side of stuff. Like I had people even just in this week, hey, could I get a free pass? I was like, I don't even know who you are. Like in my email, literally. It's like, hey, are there discount passes? Or I'm a photographer. Here are my rates. I would love to work at the festival. I was like, who are you? You know what I mean? Out of nowhere, like that building relationships is such a red flag for me. Again, we all want to make money, I know, but I think at these levels, people coming at me with demands that feel a little bit like icky are such a red flag. So I'm
Tony,
always looking.
turn that around and be like, yeah, of course. You want to volunteer for 40 hours, Yeah, you can definitely get a free pass by volunteering. Turn that
That's
around
true.
and we
That's
can book
true.
you fun.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I responded to this person by saying, here's all of our free links. You can definitely start out with that. But yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it's just wild. A lot of it is like social awareness and human connection. Once we get better at doing that, I think that'll have a great impact on all of our filmmaking too. So I hope we have a lot of good gigs come our way at the film festival. You all have a great week. Appreciate you. Have a great one. Be brave. All those things. Welcome, Vilma. Happy first one. And oh, by the way, Vilma, I will send you this link so you'll have all. And I'm just making sure that they're all updated. This link with all of the past archived replays, so you can watch
I
all of
think I've
them.
seen the emails and stuff like that for that.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great.
But
Oh
you
yeah.
resend them just in case.
Automation.
I like
That's right.
confirmation. I like to be confirmed with everything. But it was nice meeting everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Wait,
Bye,
Jacob's
y'all.
a photo. Do you want to take a photo?
Oh, sure. Who left? Somebody left, Shauna.
Yeah, she did.
Okay. Okay. Let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Love y'all. See you.
Bye.
Bye.